have speed on cameras at 1 and 2. Go ahead and do for sound.
Sound and speed.
Okay.
After reading docuseries, Susan, take 1.
Okay, good. Everybody will get settled.
Susan, I gave you a lot of questions for you, so we're going to work through these.
There's like 65 of them, too. Okay.
You'll be talking to me directly,
Okay.
and I'm just going to read, and we'll have a good time here. Can you please share your name, last name, and the name of your organization with us?
Okay, it's Susan Graham, and it's Reckless Love Outreach in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
What does Reckless Love do?
We go out to the high crime motels. It's a street called 11th and Garnett where there's gangs, prostitution, trafficking. There's lots of children that live in the motels, and we take food, hygiene. We try to minister, the gospel to them. We connect them with services that can help them come off the streets.
Right away, tell me about your experience with minor sex trafficking in that area.
We see children out there, and it's hard to determine what's actually going on because you can't fault a child for being poor. That's their family. We report things according to, if they're out there, if they're running around outside by themselves, if they're not in school. A lot of times, a lot of the young girls won't be in school, so we report to the proper authorities, and then they have to go from there and take it from there. So,
question's not on the list, but it's just something that's on my heart. Susan, tell me about define trust.
Trust, being in a safe environment, a safe place, just to know that you're okay with the person, that they're not going to hurt you, they're not going to put you in compromising positions, they're not going to do anything to get you in any sort of trouble. Just trust.
Would you agree that, and you can repeat part of the question, would you agree that normally we should be able to trust our family?
Yes, you should be able to trust your family and your friends.
Now, talking about whether you trusted or did not trust your cousin.
When I was in the situation that led me to prostitution, I was going to a friend's house, and she was my cousin, but we were also friends. And she ran an escort agency, and she asked me, I was in a bad situation. I'd gotten out of a bad relationship. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. And she knew that. And she said, well, I have a person that you can go see, and you don't have to do anything, but you'll make a lot of money. But you don't have to, do any activities or whatever. And so I said, okay. And I went to a hotel. It was a high-end hotel. And I made $900 and didn't have to do anything. And within 6 months, I was one of the highest paid escorts in my hometown. So I trusted her, yes, because she ran an escort agency. She seemed to take care of her people. And, we had always been close, so I thought that it was okay.
Tell me about that first night. $900, and you say you didn't have to do anything. What was the escort requirement?
The way it worked is she ran an agency, and there was an agency fee. The calls would come in over out of the yellow pages, because it was a really long time ago. So out of the yellow pages in the phone book, the man or whoever would call the agency. There would be a person that answered the phone, and the way the phone script, I guess, went was, yes, they would ask for a blonde girl or a brown-haired girl or whatever, and they'd be like, yes, we have that. The agency fee was $75, which that somebody went in the room, got the $75, and then we were supposed to work off tips, like whatever we made. So she took the money, and then, she would always find other reasons to take the rest of the money sometimes. So.
What would you be expected to do?
Have sex. Whatever they wanted you to do. Like, it could be stripping, it could be sexual activity, It could be watch pornography with them, just whatever they were
So when she
wanting
told
to do.
you you wouldn't have to do anything, that was not quite the situation. I mean, you were going to provide sexual service.
Right, right. But that particular night, it just ended up being the reason why I was so intrigued to go back is like nothing really did happen. We just went downstairs and we gambled and we ate and then I left. And that was it. But the next time I went, it was different. It wasn't as much money and it was more activity. So I felt that now, many years later, I felt that, and out of her own mouth, she did know my situation, so she planned it that way. She knew that nothing was going to happen on that particular call. She knew I was going to make that amount of money, so she sent me. So
what we would call today, she profiled you.
yes.
Today, profiling is online a lot.
Mm-hmm.
At any point, how long were you in that lifestyle?
On and off for about 10 years. There would be months that I wouldn't, and then I would go back to it because it was just a means. And during that time, I had never done drugs before. During that time, I got addicted to drugs. So as the progression of the prostitution went up to I was making, thousands of dollars in a week, then all of a sudden it spiraled down into a lot less because of my addiction. So.
Why would you say you got addicted?
Well, I found myself in a situation coming off of a call. She had sent me on a call, and I was with this other girl that I didn't really know. And the way my situation happened, I was in an elevator. She said, "You want to go party?" I said, "Sure." I had not done any kind of drugs in like 5 years. And I said, "Sure." And I left with her, and I ended up becoming an IV drug user that day, just as a sheer accident. Then things became easier like that way. I didn't think about what I was doing, and it just became a way of life. It was drugs, partying all the time. That's just what we did.
Is your life ever in danger in the middle of servicing a client, being there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about that environment?
Well, sometimes, especially if it was in the beginning of the prostitution, it was a lot of doctors, lawyers, some police officers in my hometown. And I am not from Tulsa. I am from a different town. But there was police officers, and, we felt threatened, like if we were to tell or anything like that, then they would come and arrest us and harass us and make it a lot worse. The first time I was ever arrested for prostitution, it was by another family member's friend, and the police officer propositioned me to have sex with him instead of arresting me. And of course I did that, of course. So, dangerous situations. Anytime you're behind closed doors with somebody you don't know doing illegal activity, it's obvious that there's a certain amount of danger. Especially when you would go in rooms and there would be 2 guys instead of 1. And that's dangerous for anybody. There was drugs involved. There's just guns, all of that, just kind of encompassing in that lifestyle. So,
did physical abuse ever go hand in hand, or forceful sex?
Yes, there is forceful sex in many different times.
Do you think that stems from a pornographic culture? Although we're talking years back here, but pornography and prostitution is as old as time, right?
I think that pornography is probably one of the most evil and horrible things ever. I think that it's tragic. There were times that we were videotaped without our knowledge. Thank God there wasn't social media back then. But I think that pornography fuels any sort of sexual perversion. I think that 85, to me, that's just what fuels it. Like it's all encompassing to me. So, yeah.
In a 10-year life cycle, in this crime, you met a lot of other girls, other women.
Yeah.
Would you say it's a pleasurable lifestyle for most, or a tormented lifestyle for most?
A lot of the girls that I knew, we all came from good families. We weren't raised poor. We went to private schools. So, there's nothing pleasurable about it. Of course, when you're partying and you're living that lifestyle, it seems like it's pleasurable, but of course, because I will not say that I never had any good times, but the majority of them were bad. And then the after effects, even when you're still in that lifestyle, are horrible. You feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel like, is my family going to find out? What's going to happen next? And then the manipulation that comes with it, it keeps your mind tormented. Is she going to get mad and not work me, and then I can't pay my bills or feed my habit or whatever the situation is? So it's a lot of mental abuse as well as anything else.
Susan, tell me, what was the breaking point? How did you get out? How did you get out of prostitution? And then, probably after the fact, what was that journey of breaking the drug habit?
Well, the drug habit, I'll start with that. The drug habit was just God. That was just it. Like one day, my husband had gotten clean through the power of the Holy Spirit. He came back from prison and he said, I'm clean and I want to stay married. And I was like, nope, I don't want to stay married. And well, we're now married 10 years. But, I just fell in love with Jesus and I found my identity in Christ. And I just found out who I wasn't. And then I found out who I was. And I just moved forward every day. The drugs were never hard to break. And the prostitution, the way I stopped that is I ended up with an older man that took care of me. And people call him a sugar daddy or something like that. He moved me into an apartment. He wouldn't pay my rent if I was doing drugs. So, and I only saw him like twice a month. So I had a lot of time to, I guess I would say, start to heal. And then I went back to drugs and went back into a deeper addiction. And just God. That's how I did it for me. It was God and finding a man, my husband, that loves me and loved me even during that time because he knew me then. And we just came out of all of that together.
In that circle, how many of your friends or acquaintances, let's call them acquaintances, do you know if they've made it out safely?
From my hometown, maybe a handful of us, maybe 5. Some have passed away. Some are still there doing the same thing. Some might have made it out, but they've never healed. So they still don't rise above their circumstances. They don't get education. They don't get jobs. They just stay in this depressed mindset. So not very many.
How big a role did fear or manipulation play in how long you stayed in prostitution?
The whole prostitution, sex trafficking, or whatever terminology you put on it, the whole game is manipulation from the first time you go out to the last day you stop. And it's just games about money. It's about, and then I was later on in my path, that horrible path, I got with a man that I was addicted to him just as much as I was anything else. And my family was fairly prominent in the town I lived in. And he would threaten, because there was no social media or anything like that, he would threaten to tell my family that I was an IV drug user, that I was prostituting, that I was doing all these things. So I had, it scared me. I didn't want my family to know. And in turn, that's also why in the past I had slept with the police officer, because he was going to tell my father. So I would say that fear and manipulation go from day one till even when you're trying to heal.
Talk to me a little bit about who are the buyers, because I think there's a huge misconception in
Yes.
the community about who the traffickers are, who the buyers are.
It's in my eyelash. What? The hair's in my eyelash. Okay.
You licked your finger, right?
Of course you did. It was my last.
Okay.
Okay. So just start there. Okay. Where I was at when I was introduced into prostitution, it was doctors, lawyers, as I stated before, police officers, high-end people that came into the casinos. It could be anybody. It could be just anybody at all. It's not, it's not a race thing. It's not a age thing. It could just be anybody.
You're doing this now, so help me understand how you're educating others and protecting them from falling prey into this lifestyle.
My biggest thing is that I just want people to know that especially mothers and fathers, that it can be your family members. It can be your neighbor. It can be anybody. It's not just a black and white and the big van pulls up and kidnaps your child and you never see her again. It's not like that. I mean, it's like that too, but it can be anybody in your family. It can be, the teacher at the school. It can be anybody. And I think people really need to realize that. And it can be for minors. It can be for older ladies. It can be for boys. It can be anybody being picked up, trafficked, persuaded. It's not a perspective of persons. And that's what my heart is to tell people. And when we go out to 11th and Garnett, we have to build a relationship with those people before they're comfortable, saying, hey, this is what's going on. And it's just about being close to the girls out there and trying to hear them without them saying anything, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And just give them provide them with, and to connect them with the resources that are good resources, faith-based places that can help them come out of their situations.
You were talking earlier about desensitizing, and we always about how culture is desensitizing people to sex, right? The term sex work, that's now getting a lot of attention.
Right.
What do you hear? What is your feeling about the term sex work?
I don't really have too much thought about it. To me, if anybody is doing anything against their will, I don't really have an opinion so much on that. Maybe I don't really know what it means. Maybe you could tell me and then I could tell you.
Yeah, I think, and I don't want to leave you.
Right, absolutely.
I want your answer, but I'll tell you what they mean by it.
Okay.
Susan, job.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay, I get it now. The term sex work, you said it was just a job. It's not just a job. No person wakes up when they're 5 years, 6 years old, 7 years old and says, oh, I think I'll be a prostitute. Oh, I think I'll go buy a girl for sex. People don't say that. That's not a dream you have as a child. So how could you grow up and that be a job? If you didn't, most kids or most young teenage girls, boys, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be this. Nobody ever has said, oh, I want to be a prostitute. That sounds great. So.
Thank you for that. Tricky two questions. So while you were in it, how did you define love? And today, how do you define love?
Well, when I was in it, I didn't define love because I separated love and going and doing those things. And I wasn't in a relationship with anybody that had any love. And now, just my husband. I don't know. He's just the kindness, the gentleness, the trust that we have. A place that with him I can be real and be me. And the few friends that I have are the same way. And that's love to me. And a no judgment place. Just no judgment.
Did you have a time when self-forgiveness was difficult?
Yes. When I got back with my husband, there were some things that had transpired when we were separated that, I had to forgive myself for because God had already forgiven me. He had already forgiven me. And so it was just time you have to forgive yourself and realize that you were a victim. I don't really like that word, but even just now in the last, say, 2 years, I finally realized that my situation was a trafficking situation and I was a victim. And it's taken a long time to come to that point because I just wanted to say, it just happened. But, yeah.
Is there freedom in that realization?
Yeah. It's a freedom to take my self-care and my love for myself to a different level. And it's, I don't judge myself. I don't judge inwardly anymore. So it's definitely freeing.
Next one is so straight up your alley. Another big thing that's happening, we got some crazy things happening in abortion at the moment. Sex work, trying to convince college students that it's an actual job,
Right.
You just feel like it's just a job, like being a teacher. But the other thing that's happening is the legalization of prostitution, big push for that in some states, and then the decriminalization of prostitution, which for sure I want these women to get services and say, you're not a criminal, you're a victim. But both those things have huge impact.
Right.
Let's talk about them separately. Legalization of prostitution. What comes to mind when you think about that?
That's absurd. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, I can't wrap my mind around that being okay. I mean, it's a horrible thing. That's, you're selling yourself every day. I don't know. I can't even really comment because it's just something I can't think about. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Decriminalizing it where the girl could know, okay, now if the police does walk it up on me and they find me, they won't prosecute me as a criminal. Now, the activity is not legal.
Right.
But they're going to look at me as a victim, as you now said, when these girls are victims.
Right.
What would that do to that community? But at the same time, what would it do to those who control the girls?
Well, it would make them mad, I think. I think in any situation when you have a person controlling a situation, like your dope dealer doesn't want you to go to rehab. You're taking his money. So if you have a person that's pushing a girl out on the street and then she's going to go get help, then they're not going to be happy because you're taking their money. I think that offering them services and offering them help is exactly what needs to happen. But there has to be programs in place, and then there's consequences if you don't complete that program. Then yes, you have to go to jail. Like, you have to. It's like we give you the chance, and if you don't take it, then there's something behind that. You can't just let them use it as an out because that's not doing anything.
As someone who's from the industry, you definitely today, looking back, think that the industry does need some sort of consequence. There has to be a framework. It can't just be.
I think there needs to be programs in place that for anything, whether it's addiction, prostitution, anything like that. I think that there has to be programs in place that help people. But just like anything, if you don't complete something, then you're not getting the help. If it's a legal matter, I believe in second chances all the time. But then if you're giving somebody 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th chances, you're taking up space that could be for somebody that wants that help. So,
If you can't answer this, right at the height of your activity in sex trafficking, which is what it was. Right?
Yeah, okay.
How many men would you be required to see? And if you don't want to give us an account of your own lifestyle, typically women, how many men are they expected to see, and how much money are they expected to bring in per day?
Well, and just as a general, to be honest, I couldn't tell you the amount of men that I slept with. That's a really hard thing to deal with at the end of the day. But I know God covers that. So, it just depends on the level of prostitution. If it's street prostitution, then they don't get to keep any of their money. If it's, I don't know what it's called now, but back then we could keep the portion of our money. back then, it was more of a manipulation about, okay, so you made this much money today. I'm going to keep you from making this much money tomorrow. So you can't, succeed or get ahead and quit. It could be anywhere between $500 a day. You could make $500 on one call, or you could make $50 a call. It was just kind of whatever you worked out back then. Now I think it's more like $100 a person. They're probably required to see at least 10 to 20 a day, just as many as they can get in. So the dynamics are different now because there is no social media. Back then, there was no social media, no back page, no internet. So it was right out of the phone book. And she had 4 or 5 agencies under different names. So there was never a lack of things going on. So.
Would you say that the rapid expansion of online activity and social media has inflated the problem?
Yes, because just like pornography, it's just at a click. It's in your car on a mobile app. You don't have to do anything but just be right there. It's just, it definitely has.
Typically when girls today, because you're doing a lot of it now, you're helping these women get to a place where you are today, free, redeemed. Earlier you said, God, remember, it wipes it all clean.
Yeah.
There's no history.
Right.
Only human beings have history.
Right.
He draws a line in the sand and he says it's forward from today. He literally says you don't have yesterday or tomorrow, you got today, and it starts fresh in the morning, so it's clean. Typically today, back then, I don't know if this has normally changed, but the amount of time a woman would be with a I hate calling these guys customers. Yeah.
We refer to them as clients, whatever that means. Back then you had an hour, and technically it was only 45 minutes because she was calling your phone in 45 minutes for you to leave. And if you weren't out in 45 minutes, then her or somebody came to the door. It was ran like an organization. Like you had someone go in for the call to check the room to make sure it was safe. Then the girl to get the money, the $75. Then the girl would go in. She would call in 45 minutes. If you didn't come out or call back, she or somebody would come to the door to make sure you were safe. She never showed up on those things. But
how about medical services? A lot of the girls need medical services.
yes, they do. They do. And nobody has insurance. Most people do not have insurance that are out there on the streets. Either they don't think about it, or it's just they don't have it. So I don't have it. So
do you think there's a solution to this crime? And if so, what?
I think that it has to also start with the buyers, because if you don't have them, then what's the problem? There's not going to be any need for it. I used to really, really dislike them and have this horrible hate towards them kind of, and I had to really pray through that. But no man or boy probably wakes up and says that's what he wants to do either. So he's a hurting person, and that's, the cliche is hurting people hurt people. So I think that there should be a place. I know there are some John schools and things like that. I think there should be a place of healing for them as well. It's very hard for me. There was this one person on the street that had been trafficking the girl, but she was now 21. She still is being trafficked. But, I got to know him as well. Unfortunately, I had to get to know him because we go out and serve the people of the street. There he was. And, he told me one time, he said, I don't like people like you, but there's something about you. And I said, there's a place of healing for you too. And he got saved in prison last year. We sent somebody from our church to him, and he got saved, and he's now doing well. And that was when I said, you know what? They're people too. They need help too.
Yeah, no, for Sure, we judge the action and the spirit behind the action
Yeah.
and the character, not the person. The person is redeemable, right?
Absolutely.
How can people help you? How can people help your organization?
With us, we basically we take food and we take hygiene and we take the love of Jesus, and it's always, it's financially. We want to be able to partner with other organizations in our city that can help these women, can provide resources. We want to be able to pay, like if there's a faith-based program that they can get into, we want to be able to pay that first deposit and that first month for them. We want to be able to help them pay for IDs. And it's just, as you already know, anything takes money. It just takes money. And solid people to come serve with us that are willing to be out there on the streets in the mess, that just, have a heart for people and for girls and children.
Statistically, and if you have a stat, if not just your opinion again, some of these girls that are in trafficking, organized prostitution, I think it's hard to even understand, because I think all prostitution has force and coercion in it, which makes it trafficking.
Right.
I've not made one, and here again today, of a woman or a man. I've interviewed male escorts.
Yeah. There were
Every
some.
single one of them would say, no, they've got a gun to my head, either a physical gun or a threat.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a needle, it's a drug habit, it's family members,
Yeah.
it's, I'm the cops, I'm gonna tell on you.
Right.
And at that point in time, that's abuse, it's force. So, those who are in it, are there need for education? Do they have the GEDs? Can they, talk to me about that for a second.
Some of them don't, but some of them come from, have college degrees and for whatever reason have ended up out there. And that's particular, it's just technically a street corner in our city. It's like a magnet. I can't explain it. Like they leave, they come back. They leave, they come back. They do have some sort of education. Some of them can't read. Some of them can. It's just based on the individual, but they're humans. They're mothers, they're sisters. They're just people. And they could use any resource at all to help them gain. The main thing is housing. Housing is to get them a safe place in the immediate moment. Because some of them want to go right then, but the programs that we have, unfortunately, right now that we're associated with, they're good programs. They have great things in place, but they need $300 in 90 days clean. That's not going to happen. No addict is going to give up $300 and give you 90 days clean before you can go in a program. So we want to be that bridge to where we can help them get that. So
You're saying the programs?
the programs have requirements, yes.
You've got to come in clean because they don't want to deal
With
rehab.
right, yes, that's.
But then that program is not an effective program.
I
Because
mean,
your very clientele, your very target market you're trying to serve does not qualify.
right, exactly, and so it's very hard to get them in there. The way it reads is most of them are a $300 deposit and 30 days clean. I was mistaken. Not some are 90, some are 30. And I know from my own experience, when I was an addict or a prostitute, if I'd had $300, it wasn't to go to a program. That was a whole other week, like of being on the street doing whatever. So we don't have an immediate place to send them. It's a lot of red tape. And sometimes you're like, I'm ready to go right now. The only place I have to take them is my house. And I've done that once.
Which is a security risk for you.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah, but she's doing well. She's finally in a program. She's got almost a year and a half clean. She's doing very well.
Okay, so with what you just told me, we're 100% going into legislation.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you pay taxes for a reason. Pay taxes so that the government comes and does the job of this, saying, okay, this is not working.
Right.
Asking a heroin addict to be clean for 30 days and come pay a $300 deposit before we can help you.
Right.
By the time I'm able to do that, I don't need you.
Right, exactly.
And then there's no beds to take in this time.
There's nowhere to take them. Not that we know of. We are connecting with other people trying to find these places. Now, domestic violence can get them in a place, but they have to call theirself. They have, and the thing is, they're not in a place to call theirself. They don't want to make these phone calls, and I know that they need to, but they're not going to, because they're afraid of judges. Some of them have warrants that if they go into a program, they're going to have to go to jail for 30 days first. Well, they don't want to do that. I understand that. So it's a lot of just stuff. So we just do our best to love them, stay in contact with them. We go out twice a month, and then I'll go out during the week and take them to lunch, do whatever I can, just be there for them. I've taken one to a family member's funeral. I've taken them to court dates. I've done whatever I can. It's just being there for them in that moment. But I would love to have a house for them.
Susan, thank you. Appreciate it. It's incredible work. And obviously, we'll be praying for you. Just sign off for me and just give us your website if you have one. If you don't,
Oh, we do?
just
Okay.
so give us your website so where we can point people to go support.
Okay.
And then after you give us your website, just say your name and the organization again, please.
Okay. Our website is recklessloveoutreach.com, and my name is Susan Graham.
Okay, let's do it one more time with a little break in between. Ready?
A break in between what? Oh, my name and
You
the...
spoke, you started too quick.
Oh, okay.
More heads.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. recklessloveoutreach.com, Susan Graham.
Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks. That's it.
Full stop.
Good job.